Thank you very much, Rowan. Can I say that Rowan is not only a superb MC, but he's also married to one of our really brilliant planners at the GSC, Stephanie Barker. So it's great to meet her other half. Now, before I start, which I do have the clicker, that's a very good thing. Before I start the presentation on GPOP, I thought I'd like to say a couple of words at possibly a higher, more general level. Now, many of you will probably be familiar with our vision for Greater Sydney as a metropolis of three cities: the eastern, where we are now, the central city anchored around Parramatta, where GPOP is, and the western city. And I will be, as you know, focusing on the central city for GPOP. And GPOP now really holds centre stage in our place-based planning, figuratively and literally. It has a unique position at the geographic centre and heart of our city. No other part of the city has an enviable advantage of geographic centrality and great outdoor quality, fantastic open spaces, Parramatta Park along Parramatta River. It's a really beautiful part of Sydney. And we don't think that on account of its centrality there should be any limitations to the GPOP area unifying Greater Sydney's eastern, central and western city so eloquently. Now, the government has asked the Commission, which I might say includes my fantastically august and genius Deputy Chief Commissioner, Jeff Roberts, who's sitting here, and Jim Betts, the CEO of Infrastructure New South Wales, together with Transport for New South Wales, led by, well, until very recently by Tim Reardon, and including Claire Gardner-Barnes, and as well our fantastic CEO, Sarah Hill, and we have lots of other brilliant people besides, but it is quite, myself excluded, quite an extraordinary bank of talent and experience and wisdom. So, and our key proposition, the Commission's key proposition, is to collaborate with a wide range of government agencies, with councils, with stakeholders, with the private sector and the community. I think I might have mentioned it before, but a city is not a PPP, it's a PPC, where you have the public sector, the private sector and the community sector. And only if there is a good degree of alignment with all those three streams of city making and city creation and the city can a city have a prosperous and optimistic and livable future. So we see GPOP as being a model for place-based planning across Greater Sydney. Now, can I just say quietly, I am, in developing our GPOP vision and our plans generally, I have been informed and inspired by the many wonderful women, including Sarah, and the senior planners in our team, many of whom are women who have busy working lives and families, for whom coming to work in Parramatta is a major bonus to their quality of life. They live in Western Sydney or southwestern Sydney, and having the ability to slice an hour off their travel time has a really material and positive impact on their quality of life. So my dream is for Western Sydney and the Parramatta Central City to be a resource in promoting livability and connectivity, which enables and empowers even greater levels of participation by women in government, business, and everything else. Now, just a couple of facts about GPOP. I'll set the scene. It's a 4,000-acre site. Sorry, go back. The GPOP is a 4,000-acre site. By comparison, the City of Sydney, which you're all familiar with, is less than that. It's about 2,700 hectares. So it's a huge amount of land. It's already home to about 100,000 people. And interestingly, 50% of those people were born overseas. And I often get the train, it's much faster than doing anything else. And especially if I go for an evening meeting, it's actually really fascinating. A lot of the people getting off the train with me as they go home from work are actually Southern Asians. And it's amazing to see that community grow. The use of the train system, certainly in the morning, is really growing. And I think that the demographics of the GPOP area are really interesting, intriguing, and they are, to me, the Sydney of tomorrow. Looking forward to, there's a huge amount of population between 25 to 34 years old, around 20%, which is higher than our average. And looking ahead to 2036, the Department of Planning and Environment's early work shows that GPOP will have 72,000 new homes and 110,000 jobs. And there is, we believe, capacity for more. It's got really impressive city-scale civic assets: housing, commercial centres, health and education precincts, open space and leisure hubs. In many ways, I really believe, we really believe at the Commission, that the GPOP area can parallel in an east-west configuration rather than a north-south configuration like the CBD, the harbour CBD's current role as a commercial and civic core. And like Chris, once the connection time between this city and Parramatta is less than 20 minutes, there is nothing stopping even more government and administrative services, and who knows, one day even new state parliament to Parramatta. So we think it makes a lot of sense that Parramatta and GPOP is a really key focus for government. Now, a year ago, I had the honour of unveiling the Commission's vision for GPOP at the Bradfield Oration, and Chris was there, as many others. So what we've done in the meantime is, with transport infrastructure and a lot of government agencies, we've done what I would like to think is putting some bones on the blush map that we presented in October last year. And with transport and infrastructure, we have put a lot of bones on that blush map, which shows a way of how transport and infrastructure can be organised around the three cities vision. GPOP was, of course, first identified as a new priority growth area in the Plan for Growing Sydney in 2014. In 2016, we tweaked and redefined the area in the light of the PLR and Parramatta Light Rail project, and released the GPOP vision. In it, we identified 4 key distinct quarters within GPOP. Sorry, I haven't done very well with the slides. Okay, 4 key distinct quarters within GPOP. We've got the Parramatta CBD and the Westmead Health and Education Precinct, and I'd like to acknowledge Richard Alcock, who chairs the Western Sydney Health District, and Danny O'Connor, who I saw. The Westmead Health and Education District's significance, it's hard to understate. It's GPOP's western economic anchor, and it will over time, with a lot more investment from the private and the public sector, transition, we believe, into being a really vibrant and important innovation precinct. Of course, there's $900 million currently being spent on the redevelopment of the Westmead Hospital, and there's lots of future investment in education, university education, school education besides. So our vision for Westmead is, through greater connectivity with the light rail and potentially West Metro, to turn Westmead from having its original characteristic as a business park, in a sense sort of isolated from the rest of GPOP conceptually, into an urban precinct, which is where people like to live, work and innovate these days. So we need to create a much stronger quality of urbanity in and around the Westmead precinct. Secondly, we have next generation living from Camellia to Carlingford. Now that's characterised, it needs to be characterised by a great diversity of housing choice and a mix of new and revitalised housing, including social housing, for example, at Tilapia and Ermington. We also need student accommodation around university precincts, notably the WSU Rydalmere campus, and potentially in and around a new Camellia town centre. We see an opportunity to expand this quadrant to include land on the northern side of the Parramatta River, with the preferred route of Stage 2 now being identified as going through Rydalmere, Ermington to Melrose Park. Now, last week I had the great pleasure of going around with one of our senior planners, one of the ones who lives in Western Sydney, Natalie Camilleri, to tour around the magnificent terrain, topography and social infrastructure in that part of GPOP, to see the existing schools and wonderful play spaces and open spaces along the creek lines and fantastic mature trees along much of that Camellia to Carlingford area. There's so much potential there for livability and for opportunity. Now, the other part of our quadrant is the essential urban services and the advanced technology and knowledge sectors. Camellia, Rydalmere, Silverwater and Auburn, which Natalie and I also drove around, thank goodness. I'm not usually a brilliant navigator, but I didn't get us lost that time. But those parts, Camellia, Rydalmere, Silverwater and Orbit, are already playing a really important role in the advanced technology and urban services sector. And those sectors are and will continue to be really fundamental for any well-functioning city. Viva Energy, which is located at Camellia, is evolving from an oil refinery to an oil distributor. And I certainly didn't know till last year that every single litre of fuel sold west of Camellia is actually trucked from the Viva Energy site at Camellia to the west of Sydney, over the Blue Mountains and beyond. So those pipelines and freight and infrastructure routes are absolutely fundamental to the operation of the Central City, Western Sydney and regional New South Wales. Now, we also have a huge amount of advanced manufacturing businesses, There's a business called Robotic Automation, which I have visited at Silverwater, which is one of Australia's leading suppliers of robotic systems. There's Rode Microphones, which is a world leader in microphone designs and manufacturing. And there's Blue Glass, which is a cutting-edge technology company developing and commercialising breakthrough semiconductor technology. There is so much human and innovation capital in this central city, and we need to respect and understand its significance, economic and social, for smart jobs and economic growth. The land around Camellia and Silverwater, etc., also provides future capacity for jobs and has a critical function in shaping the GPOP economic corridor. Industrial land is evolving rapidly from just being, where people make traditional widgets, to being really important land for freight and logistic hubs and for complex employment uses and for the provision, for example, of water and energy. These lands service the construction industry as well. So we need a place in any city which will service the back of house, logistical functions that that make it a really strong part of our economy. Now, in Camellia is where the light rail stabling yards are going to be built, and where potentially there could be a fantastic wastewater treatment system, which can in turn improve, as Chris Brown was saying earlier, the water quality in Parramatta River. The other quadrant is the Olympic Park Lifestyle Super Precinct, which has, as we know, world-class sporting and event venues. And I note what Chris said about the future for a convention centre with the RAS. What a great idea that is. I hope that can happen. And we also, the SOPA is very intently developing a lifestyle precinct, which has the potential to be a home to diverse markets, pop-up events, retail, all the things that people love to go and do and see recreationally in other ways too, and also a sports, health and physical education super precinct. Now, this vision for Olympic Park requires a total transport solution, so I'm very glad whenever I see maps of the West Metro that Olympic Park and Parramatta Westmead are key components of the West Metro to Parramatta, as well as the Bays precinct. So there's over $10 billion of public sector investment in the GPOP area at the moment, and that's not including the West Metro. So we do have a huge potential to develop GPOP into a true centre of Sydney. Now, connectivity in any city, in any part of any city, and GPOP's no exception, is key to the successful operation of a city, and it's very key to what we're doing at the Greater Sydney Commission with Transport Infrastructure and our other partner agencies. We have been working very hard on developing it's like a more final settled form of the Parramatta Light Rail project, which will promote connectivity across the GPOP area. We see magnificent opportunity to deliver diverse housing and making GPOP central location a great place where the light rail is feeding into connection points for the metro and heavy rail as well. The future transport strategy, along with our regional plan, looks to improve public transport access by identifying mass transit initiatives for investigation. The central city can only be a true central city if it has much greater connective tissue between south down to Kogarah and Bankstown and up towards Norwest Business Park and Epping. At that point, it will really be a true central city. And so that's why I think Transport for New South Wales has identified those access points as areas for future investigation, and I think they're really important. Frequent efficient connections, such as Sydney Metro West, which will provide a trip of less than 20 minutes and must provide a trip of less than 20 minutes to the Sydney Harbour CBD, will see incalculable economic benefits for both metropolitan centres. And next year, we will help to evolve our vision for GPOP through piloting our growth infrastructure compact, which we're working with across government. Now, two of our key sort of like guiding pole stars, if you like, in our regional planning is first to deliver a city supported by infrastructure, and that's feasible with the infrastructure program the state government has. And secondly, to deliver that infrastructure and the growth and the jobs and everything else we need through collaboration. Collaboration is fundamental to everything we do. So what we've done is we've established the idea of needing collaboration areas in high transformation places like GPOP, Liverpool, Campbelltown, the Randwick Health and Education Precinct, etc. It's only through collaboration with state government, local government and other key stakeholders that we can get the outcomes we all need and get leverage from the infrastructure from one stream into the other stream. We need one of our first collaboration areas, of course, was GPOP. We've been working with 20 government agencies with Parramatta City Council from early last year. And the key priorities for our GPOP collaboration include growing Westmead's Health and Education Precinct, improving Parramatta CBD and all the multiple components of GPOP. So our growth infrastructure compact idea, which has been flagged and released to the world already, is to take into account the key message we've been getting that community and business are very happy to support growth as long as there are clear pathways to the delivery of infrastructure and services. The delivery of infrastructure to go with growth is one of the key burning platforms in Greater Sydney's growth and how we plan for it. The Commission has developed this growth infrastructure compact as the next logical step. And again, there's no better place to trial this than GPOP initially. So I'm going to quickly play you a video. I hope it works.
Greater Sydney is a successful city, but as it grows, it'll need more infrastructure and services to be productive, livable and sustainable. This means more roads, public transport, services and schools where we live and work. A better collaborative way of doing things is required, so the Greater Sydney Commission has designed the Growth Infrastructure Compact. Growth Infrastructure Compacts will bring government, business and the community together to match housing and jobs growth with the delivery of infrastructure. Can existing infrastructure be extended or improved, or is new investment needed? What will it cost? How will it be funded? And when can it be delivered? This leads to an infrastructure delivery plan with community and industry input and local and state government backing to build great places. With support across government infrastructure agencies, the Greater Sydney Commission is applying a growth infrastructure compact in Greater Parramatta and the Olympic Peninsula. We'll be better able to understand the cost and share the benefits across city infrastructure, achieving greater outcomes for the community. Growth Infrastructure Compacts, a new and visionary way of planning for Greater Sydney's future.
Okay, so the GIC process is founded on building and sharing information and expertise across state government agencies and within local government. In fact, as I mentioned before, we've got more than 20 agencies sitting around the table at our GPOP coordination group meetings. In aiming to deliver a GPOP growth infrastructure compact in 2018, there are 8 steps, from establishing a clear vision to doing a baseline assessment, scenario analysis, etc. And then we need a governance structure too, funding and finance, and we need to benchmark how we're going and how we're going against other areas. But most importantly, the key proposition of the Growth Infrastructure Compact is that there is a cross-government alignment and a delivery program for how we create this infrastructure that we need, and to sequence the delivery of this infrastructure. So the GPOP governance coordination group, as I said, has been going since early last year, and I chair that group, and it's a wide and really interesting group, and we have very diverse and interesting discussions. We also have an infrastructure delivery committee which is created under the Greater Sydney Commission Act. We have a lot of key people at the table with us, DPE, health infrastructure, they're all listed. But what we're doing is we're creating a set of scenarios for GPOP, base cases, scenario 1s, scenario 2 and scenario 3, and figuring out the infrastructure we need and the growth opportunities that arise from that infrastructure and how we sequence that infrastructure. Now, can I say that our draft plans are out for consultation? Can I implore you and ask you very courteously at the same time to engage with those plans? Please give us your feedback, tell us what you think, because it's only talking to the wider community and very informed stakeholders like yourselves that we can actually get things right and be confident that we are hearing from what the community really needs and from what government needs and the private sector as well, because we are a PPC. Thank you very much.